I did my project on an environmental organization. I chose to do it on a foundation called the Conservation Foundation. I picked this foundation because it is close to my home and I believe it is extremely helpful. I am first going to talk about the main issue they work with, then I will discuss the solution they are promoting, and then go into some more in-depth details about the organization as well as how the community can support it. To start is the issue, which is non-point source pollution. Non-point source pollution results from land runoff, precipitation, atmospheric deposition, drainage, seepage, and other sources. It is caused by rainfall or snowmelt moving over and through the ground. An example is, a raindrop falls and hits the ground and flows across streets, yards, fields. While it flows, it picks up grease, chemicals, dirt, fertilizers, pesticides, as well as trash. All of those pollutants mix with that rain and flow away as non-point source pollution. This pollution affects us in many ways, such as our drinking water, recreation, fisheries, and our wildlife. It is also the leading problem in water quality. Next is the solution. The Conservation Foundation started using watersheds. Within this diagram, there is a picture of what a watershed is. A watershed is defined as an area of land that drains down slope until it reaches a common point. The Illinois EPA is using watershed management to reduce water pollution. A watershed approach is the most effective framework to address water resource issues. Watersheds supply drinking water, provide recreation, as well as sustain life. Watershed strategically addresses priority water resource goals, as such listed in this bubble. The last thing I want to discuss is the foundation itself. This foundation was founded in 1972 in Naperville, Illinois. It is all about protecting rivers and streams and using different approaches. Their major thing that they are working on are watersheds. The DuPage River watershed is mainly focusing on 5 different things, such as Adopt a Stream, DuPage River Sweep, Storm Drain Stenciling, DuPage River Salt Creek Work Group, and Lower DuPage River Watershed. The Fox River watershed focuses on several creeks near that river. Their Adopt a Stream project is all about bringing members, residents, and professionals together for the sake of preservation and conservation. Local businesses, student groups, organizations, volunteer groups, and individuals can all make a difference in keeping the waterways clean, healthy, and attractive. I had the opportunity to speak with Tara Neff, who is the Water Resource Assistant at the Conservation Foundation. We spoke for over an hour about everything, and she gave me awesome details. This foundation works with local units of government. We talked about how different landscapes are a huge tie to the different non-point source pollutions. We talked about how you need a permit to dump water into rivers and streams and so forth. One needs to obtain an MS4 permit. An MS4 is a system that is owned by a state, city, town, and more. It is designed and or used to collect stormwater. It is not combined with sewers, as well as it is also not part of a sewage treatment plant. Developing an MS4 program takes time. Owners and operators of storm systems are required to develop and enforce a stormwater management program, also known as SWMP. The Stormwater Management Program shows how the MS4 permit will reduce the non-point source pollution, as well as it addresses several issues. Some of those issues include construction site runoff control, illicit discharge detection and elimination, public education, program effectiveness, and effectiveness. These are 3 specific and measurable permits. They include Part 1, which is the 6 minimum control measures. These illustrate the types of permits provisions for the 6 minimum controls measures of the Stormwater Management Plan. Part 2 is the post-construction standards. The review of existing state and EPA permits for this area are focused on retention-based post-construction standards that addresses not only control of pollutant loads, but at the same time reduce volume and velocity impacts of storm water discharges. Part 3 is the water quality base requirements. This includes water quality base requirements for specific pollutant parameters that are consistent with approved total maximum daily loads. The EPA reviewed MS4 permits for water quality base requirements related to discharge to impaired waters without approved TMDLs. One also needs to obtain a stormwater drain permit. A stormwater drain permit has 3 types of discharges, and they fall under the National Pollution Discharge Elimination System. It also has to go under certain circumstances, so you can have a no exposure certification waiver instead of a stormwater discharge permit. One also needs to obtain a wastewater treatment plant permit. These wastewater permits are needed to manage the quality of surface water and groundwater. This permit sets limits on wastewater disposal activities. The Illinois EPA needs to know who is dumping what into the waters. The Illinois EPA takes assessments on rivers and streams. They take segments of those rivers and do a 5-year rotation between the bodies of water. They look for macrovertebrae and fish. If the habitat is looking the same or has changed, riverbed sediment chemistry, as well as they look at all the stats of the monitoring of that body of water. Tara and I discussed an example to help me understand more. The watershed group work is not just looking at one chemical, but all chemicals. They look at chloride the most. Chloride is also known as road salt. The foundation uses a holistic approach on how chloride affects aquatic life. Chloride is used for de-icing snow on roads. The foundation works on how to reduce the amount of road salt and snow fighting issues that end up in rivers and streams. Illinois has a no net increase, so companies and this foundation work together to decrease the amount of chloride used in the winter. On this slide, I typed some things that communities can do to decline the non-point source pollution. Some things that we can do as a community would be to keep litter, pest waste, leaves, and debris out of street gutters and storm drains. We can also make sure that our detergents and cleaners are low in phosphorus. We can also participate in stream cleanup programs, as well as landscape our yards to minimize rainwater runoff. We need to preserve neighborhood trees that help minimize the damage caused by surface runoff. We also should dispose of litter in garbage cans or in recycling bins. We should be recycling glass, aluminum, plastic, paper, motor oil, and newspapers. Also, don't intentionally dump anything into a storm drain. That will cause more damage. This slide right here are some quotes that Tara said that I find unique. And this slide also contains some facts that I obtained from Tara. These facts included the fact that the organization was founded in 1972, that only 3% of water on Earth is fresh water, and 2/3 of that water is frozen in glaciers or otherwise unavailable for our use. Another one is around 40% of total household water used during the summer months is for watering lawns and gardens. Now these quotes came from Tara in my interview, and these are the ones that I found most interesting and really stuck to me, especially the fact that people should be planting more butterfly gardens in suburban areas as well as gardens in general, because it helps the landscaping just in general and creating a better flow for the non-point source pollution. I hope that you all learned a lot about non-point source pollution and how watersheds help prevent it, and you look more into the Conservation Foundation as well. These are my citations and all of my sources on these 2 pages, and I hope you enjoyed.